Ma'am, this fake check isn't fooling anyone here. The words slice through Premier National Bank's marble lobby as Brad Mitchell, the smirking teller, holds up a $47,000 check theatrically. Dr. Denise Washington stands frozen at the counter, her hands resting calmly on the granite surface while her knuckles turn white. Brad waves the check high enough for every customer to see, drawing snickers from his colleague Sarah and prompting security guard Jim to step closer, hand moving toward his radio. Then Brad does the unthinkable. He tears the check in half with deliberate slowness, the sharp ripping sound echoing off the vaulted ceiling as torn pieces flutter to the floor like wounded birds. Other customers turn to stare while whispers ripple through the lobby, their eyes fixed on the black woman now surrounded by judgment and suspicion. Have you ever been so publicly humiliated that your entire body went numb, yet your mind became laser-sharp with purpose? The digital clock glows 2:47 p.m. 13 minutes until Premier National closes, but Brad Mitchell acts like he has all the time in the world. He examines the torn check pieces with theatrical disgust, holding them high enough for every customer in line to witness his performance. "Settlement from Meridian Tech Solutions?" His voice booms across the marble lobby. "Lady, I've never heard of that company, and trust me, I know every legitimate business in this city." Manager Patricia Bennett materializes from her glass office like a shark sensing blood, her heels clicking with predatory precision. She doesn't examine the evidence before choosing sides. "What's the situation, Brad?" Patricia asks, though her crossed arms and dismissive glance at Denise telegraph her predetermined conclusion. Behind them, Mrs. Rodriguez discreetly angles her phone to capture the unfolding discrimination, her live stream silently gathering witnesses. 3 forms of ID, social security card, and proof of address dated within 30 days, Patricia demands, each requirement dropping like a gate slamming shut. Denise reaches into her Hermes handbag, worth more than Brad's monthly salary, and produces perfect documentation. Patricia examines each piece with exaggerated suspicion, turning them toward the light as if hoping to find obvious forgeries. "These look sophisticated," she announces loudly. "Scammers are getting better at fake IDs these days." The accusation lands like a slap. Mrs. Rodriguez's viewer count jumps to 15, then 37. Comments flood in. "This is racism in real time," and "Someone call the news." The hashtag #Premier National Shame begins its viral climb while Denise maintains supernatural calm, checking her platinum Patek Philippe watch. Another wealth signal everyone's choosing to ignore. Security guard Jim positions himself behind Denise with military precision, his presence shifting the room's energy from uncomfortable to threatening. His radio crackles as he adjusts volume, the static making nearby customers flinch. Young Mother Ashley instinctively pulls her daughters closer, their innocent eyes absorbing a masterclass in institutional prejudice. They're too young to understand, but old enough to remember. "Settlement checks are classic fraud," Brad lectures Patricia while gesturing at Denise like she's an exhibit. "They come in right before closing hoping we won't have time for proper verification. Textbook scammer behavior." He tears another corner from the already destroyed check, his destruction complete, but his humiliation just beginning. The clock reads 2:50 p.m. Denise's phone buzzes. "Board meeting reminder, 4 o'clock p.m. She silences it without reading, but not before Patricia notices the expensive device and corporate calendar notification. A first-class boarding pass edges from her blazer pocket, Delta One service from LaGuardia, booked under Dr. Tae, Washington. Another clue hiding in plain sight. "Corporate security needs to verify this," Patricia announces, dialing with theatrical urgency. "Yes, this is downtown branch manager Patricia Bennett. We have a potential fraud situation involving a large settlement check from an unknown company." Her voice carries across the lobby, turning Denise's private banking into public spectacle. The live stream explodes to 64 viewers. Mrs. Rodriguez provides running commentary. Professional black woman being criminalized at Premier National downtown. They destroyed her check and called her a scammer. Local activist Marcus Johnson joins from his law office, immediately recognizing systematic discrimination patterns he's fought for decades. Brad produces a laminated fraud prevention chart, pointing at various security features while building his case. See these watermarks? Too perfect, obviously computer-generated. Real settlement checks have slight variations that prove authenticity. His confidence grows with each fabrication, feeding off Patricia's encouraging nods and the audience's uncomfortable silence. Mr. Thompson, elderly and impatient, mutters, "Some people," while checking his watch. The phrase hangs loaded with meaning, letting him express prejudice through coded language. Ashley whispers to her twins to stay close, her maternal instincts recognizing danger even if she can't articulate its source. Patricia's corporate call stretches deliberately long. Through the speakerphone, Denise hears keyboards clicking as her information gets flagged in security databases. "We're running full background verification," Patricia announces unnecessarily loudly. "These sophisticated fraud rings require thorough investigation." Jim's radio crackles with new instructions. He nods grimly and steps closer to Denise, invading her personal space with practiced intimidation. "Ma'am, I need you to step outside for private discussion," he suggests, with authority that transforms requests into commands. His hand rests on his equipment belt, a subtle threat that doesn't go unnoticed. The viewer count hits 89. Comments stream faster than Mrs. Rodriguez can read. "Call the NAACP," and "This bank is finished," and "Someone get this woman a lawyer." The digital outrage builds momentum while Denise stands in the eye of the storm, checking her watch again. 2:53 p.m. 7 minutes until closing. Patricia hangs up her performance call with satisfied finality. "Corporate security has placed you on fraud alert pending investigation. We cannot process any transactions until verification completes, which typically takes 3 to 5 business days." She delivers this news with bureaucratic satisfaction, watching for Denise's reaction to institutional defeat. But Denise doesn't break. Instead, she does something unexpected. She smiles. Not with humor or submission, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knows something everyone else has missed. Her fingers drum once against the granite counter, a subtle rhythm that suggests patience rather than nervousness. "Interesting timing," Denise says softly, her first words since the humiliation began. Her voice carries undertones of steel wrapped in silk, calm authority that makes Patricia's aggression seem suddenly juvenile. She glances at the promotional video playing on the wall-mounted TV, then back at Patricia with that same mysterious smile. The clock shows 2:54 p.m., and something has shifted in the room's power dynamic, though nobody can identify exactly what. 2:55 p.m. Patricia's confidence cracks slightly at Denise's mysterious smile, but she doubles down with institutional authority. "Corporate security requires full verification before processing any transactions," she announces loudly enough for the entire lobby to hear. "We cannot allow potential fraud to proceed, regardless of how sophisticated the attempt appears." Mrs. Rodriguez's live stream viewer count explodes past 200 as the story spreads through digital networks. Comments flood in faster than she can read them, transforming private humiliation into public accountability. Local news producer Jessica Kim races downtown after receiving multiple tips, her news van cutting through traffic while the discrimination unfolds in real time. Brad calls his regional supervisor, speaking with theatrical authority. "We've intercepted a major fraud attempt involving a fake settlement check for $47,000. The suspect claims it's from Meridian Tech Solutions, but we've never heard of that company." He pauses dramatically, stealing glances at Denise while expecting to see panic. Instead, her calm demeanor seems almost amused, which only strengthens his determination to expose her supposed crimes. The bank's crisis management team receives alerts as social media monitoring systems detect unusual activity. Digital marketing manager David Park types urgent messages in corporate Slack channels. "Developing discrimination incident at downtown branch. Live stream going viral. Need immediate damage control." Corporate headquarters 20 miles away begins mobilizing response protocols for what could become a public relations disaster. Jim positions himself more aggressively, using his security training to control Denise's movement options. Additional identification required, he demands while blocking her path to the exit. His tactical positioning transforms the marble lobby into an interrogation zone, with Denise surrounded by hostile staff and increasingly uncomfortable customers. Other patrons express growing impatience with barely concealed prejudice. Mr. Thompson checks his expensive watch and sighs dramatically. "Some people always create problems at closing time," he mutters loud enough for everyone to hear. Young Ashley pulls her twin daughters closer, their innocent eyes absorbing a masterclass in institutional racism they're too young to understand but old enough to internalize. 2:56 p.m. Patricia escalates by threatening law enforcement involvement. "Attempted bank fraud is a federal crime," she declares while reaching for her desk phone. "I'm calling the police to ensure proper procedure is followed." Her threat hangs like a weapon, designed to force Denise into confession or flight. The remaining customers shift uncomfortably, some distancing themselves from what they perceive as criminal activity. But Denise doesn't break. She calmly checks her phone, not frantically like someone caught in deception, but methodically like someone confirming expected information. Her movements reveal expensive accessories, platinum corporate credit cards, executive club memberships, first-class boarding passes. These status symbols remain invisible to staff committed to seeing only criminal behavior. The live stream reaches 300 viewers as Mrs. Rodriguez provides real-time commentary. "They're threatening police against this professional woman for banking while black," she whispers urgently. "Premier National Downtown Branch, Manager Patricia Bennett, Teller, Brad Mitchell." Her documentation transforms passive viewers into potential activists, several already researching corporate contact information for complaint filing. Brad discovers new reasons for suspicion through amateur investigation. "This driver's license hologram appears altered," he announces with growing confidence. "Corporate ID uses non-standard fonts that suggest forgery." His forensic theater impresses Patricia, who nods approvingly at his thoroughness. Neither realizes they're critiquing legitimate government and corporate documents with actual security features. 2:57 p.m. Corporate security demands direct customer contact. "They want to speak with her personally," Patricia announces with bureaucratic satisfaction. "Standard fraud investigation protocol." She extends her desk phone like a challenge, expecting confusion from someone caught in criminal deception. Denise accepts the phone with unchanged composure. "Dr. Denise Washington, Employee Identification MW 47291, Corporate Account Holder since 2019, she states clearly. Her response includes specific details that surprise Patricia. Real verification codes and security answers that suggest legitimate banking history rather than attempted fraud. The corporate conversation continues with Denise providing additional authentication information with precise accuracy. Security's tone shifts from suspicious interrogation to professional courtesy as they access her actual account records. "Thank you, Dr. Washington. Your verification is complete," the voice concludes professionally. Patricia's confidence wavers at this unexpected development, but Brad maintains his fraud conviction. "Sophisticated criminals research their targets thoroughly," he explains to anyone listening. "They gather real information to support elaborate deceptions. That's what makes them so dangerous to detect." His expertise by assertion convinces himself even as contradictory evidence accumulates. The wall-mounted television cycles through Premier National's promotional content, featuring diversity campaigns that directly contradict the discrimination occurring below. "Premier National, your success is our mission," scrolls across the screen while staff criminalize their black customer. The corporate hypocrisy isn't lost on livestream viewers, whose outrage intensifies with each ironic advertisement. Ashley's daughters ask uncomfortable questions in loud whispers. Why is the nice lady in trouble? And what did she do wrong? Their innocent curiosity forces Ashley to confront the racism her children are witnessing, though she struggles with age-appropriate explanations for institutional prejudice they're absorbing in real time. 2:58 p.m. Jim produces official documentation requirements. Incident report completion is mandatory for suspected fraudulent activity, he announces while brandishing clipboard and pen. His law enforcement background shows in question framing, designed to elicit incriminating responses from suspects under pressure. Denise's answers confound his expectations completely. Occupation: Chief Technology Officer. Czech origin. Corporate acquisition bonus from Meridian Tech Solutions. Her executive vocabulary and unshakable confidence suggest someone comfortable navigating boardroom conversations rather than improvising criminal schemes under interrogation pressure. The livestream viewer count crosses 400 as shares multiply across social platforms. Digital accountability arrives in real time, transforming private humiliation into public scrutiny that demands immediate corporate response. Regional Director Thomas Bradley receives emergency alerts during dinner at an exclusive restaurant, his assistant texting urgently. Discrimination crisis developing downtown, viral live stream, need immediate intervention. A local activist, Marcus Johnson, arrives outside, documenting the scene through windows while live updating his substantial social media following. His presence signals that this incident has attracted organized civil rights attention, elevating stakes beyond simple customer service failure into potential legal action territory. 2:59 p.m. Patricia's desk phone rings with incoming calls from corporate headquarters, regional management, and crisis communications teams. The discrimination she initiated as routine customer intimidation has mushroomed into institutional emergency, requiring executive-level damage control. Her face pales as she recognizes the magnitude of her miscalculation. Brad continues defending his fraud theory, even as evidence mounts against it. Elaborate schemes often include real corporate connections, he insists to Patricia, while other staff members begin questioning his judgment. His commitment to being right overshadows mounting proof that he's catastrophically wrong about both the check and the customer. Denise checks her watch one final time, her mysterious smile now containing unmistakable anticipation. The countdown that began as institutional pressure against her has transformed into something working entirely in her favor. Every second brings her closer to a revelation that will reverse the power dynamic completely. The promotional video on the wall television begins a new cycle, and Denise's attention shifts toward the screen with knowing expectation. Her calm confidence suggests someone waiting for a precisely timed event, rather than hoping for rescue from desperate circumstances. 1 minute until closing. 1 minute until everything changes. 3:00 p.m. Premier National Bank's closing time arrives with the finality of a judge's gavel, but nobody moves toward the exit. The discrimination has reached its crescendo, with Denise Washington standing calm at the center of institutional prejudice, about to explode in ways her accusers cannot fathom. Denise pulls out her phone with the deliberate precision of someone who has been waiting for this exact moment. Her fingers move with corporate executive efficiency as she dials a single number. 1 ring, 2 rings. Then a crisp, professional voice answers. "Janet, this is Denise." Her words carry across the marble lobby with crystal clarity, each syllable designed for maximum impact. "Execute Plan B. Yes, right now. Full implementation." She pauses, listening to the response while maintaining eye contact with Patricia. "Confirmed. All systems go." The call ends with a soft click that somehow sounds louder than Brad's earlier check-tearing theatrics. Denise turns toward the security camera mounted above Patricia's workstation, her movement fluid and purposeful. When she speaks, her voice projects with the authority of someone accustomed to boardroom presentations. "For the record, I am Dr. Denise Washington, Chief Technology Officer of Meridian Tech Solutions." Each word lands like a precision strike. "Today is March 15th, 2024, and I am documenting systematic discrimination at Premier National Bank's downtown branch for corporate review and legal proceedings." Patricia's face begins its transformation from bureaucratic confidence to dawning horror. The company name Brad, dismissed as fictional, now carries weight that settles in her stomach like liquid concrete. Meridian Tech Solutions. She's heard that name recently, somewhere critically important, but panic prevents the connection from crystallizing. Brad's fraud conviction wavers for the first time since the ordeal began. Corporate executives don't use neighborhood branches, he insists, while clutching the torn check pieces with increasing desperation. Real CEOs have private banking relationships. His amateur psychology cannot account for executives who prioritize accessibility over exclusivity, especially when conducting business in institutions they're about to own. Mrs. Rodriguez's live stream has become appointment viewing for nearly 600 people, her real-time commentary transforming private humiliation into public accountability. Something big is about to happen, she whispers to her phone. This woman has been too calm, too confident. She knows something they don't. The wall-mounted television completes its advertising cycle and flickers momentarily, drawing everyone's attention to what appears to be technical difficulties. But instead of returning to Premier National's promotional content, the screen switches to breaking news coverage that will shatter every assumption in the room. Channel 7's anchor appears with urgent graphics blazing behind her professional composure. We interrupt regular programming with breaking business news. Meridian Tech Solutions has completed its historic $2.3 billion acquisition of Premier National Bank, creating the region's largest technology-driven financial institution. The words hit the lobby like a physical force. Every conversation stops. Every breath catches. Every assumption crumbles as reality restructures itself around this new information. Patricia's hand freezes halfway to her desk phone, while Brad stares at the screen with the expression of someone watching their world end in real time. The anchor continues with devastating precision. The acquisition, finalized just moments ago, will be overseen by Meridian's Chief Technology Officer, Dr. Denise Washington, who brings 2 decades of experience in corporate transformation and digital innovation to her new role. Brad's face transitions through shock, disbelief, and pure terror as the torn check fragments in his palm suddenly represent something far worse than evidence of suspected fraud. They now constitute documentation of his own discriminatory destruction of legitimate corporate compensation from his new ultimate supervisor. A professional headshot appears on screen. The same confident expression, the same intelligent eyes, the same composed demeanor of the woman standing at their counter. Dr. Denise Washington, Chief Technology Officer, smiling with the quiet authority of someone who has just acquired their entire institutional existence. "Holy Mother of God," Mr. Thompson whispers, his earlier prejudiced comments now echoing in his memory like evidence of character assassination. The elderly man who felt comfortable expressing casual racism suddenly faces consequences he never imagined possible. Patricia begins hyperventilating as the mathematical reality crashes over her. She hasn't just discriminated against a random customer. She has publicly humiliated the executive responsible for her bank's survival, her branch's future, and her own continued employment. The institutional hierarchy she thought protected her prejudice has inverted completely. The news coverage provides additional context that deepens the horror. Dr. Washington's signing bonus for completing this acquisition was $47,000, which she planned to deposit at Premier National before assuming her new executive responsibilities. The anchor's words transform Brad's fraud accusations into documented evidence of discrimination against legitimate corporate compensation. Jim, the security guard, slowly backs away from Denise as understanding floods his consciousness. His tactical positioning and intimidation techniques have been directed against someone who now possesses institutional authority over every aspect of his professional existence. Career suicide has rarely been so thoroughly documented. Ashley's daughters provide the only innocent commentary in the lobby. "Mommy, the nice lady is on TV!" they exclaim with childish delight, their pure joy contrasting sharply with the adult panic spreading through the room like wildfire. Their mother shushes them while processing the magnitude of witnessed discrimination against someone with real power to respond. The breaking news concludes with final devastating details. Integration begins immediately, with Dr. Washington conducting her first board meeting at 4 p.m. to establish new management protocols and operational standards. The timing reveals that Denise's patience wasn't desperation. It was strategic precision, allowing maximum documentation before wielding institutional authority. But the television isn't finished destroying careers. Premier National's regular programming resumes with their newest advertising campaign, and the first face to appear sends shockwaves through anyone still capable of processing additional information. A confident teenager, with familiar bone structure and the same quiet strength radiating from his intelligent eyes. His voice fills the lobby with painful irony. "Hi, I'm Jordan Washington. Premier National Bank helped my family achieve our dreams through respectful, professional service that treats every customer with dignity." Brad's remaining color drains completely as facial recognition connects mother and son through shared features that should have been obvious from the beginning. The bank's own diversity campaign features the child of the woman he's been criminalizing, creating layers of institutional hypocrisy that boggle the mind. Jordan's testimonial continues with unconscious irony that burns like acid. "My mom taught me that respect should be universal, and Premier National understands that every customer deserves professional treatment regardless of their background." His recorded words indict the very discrimination his mother has endured while he unknowingly promoted their family values. The promotional video cycles through additional diversity messaging that now reads like evidence of corporate fraud. Premier National, banking for everyone, scrolls across the screen while staff members realize they've violated every principle their employer claims to uphold, in front of the executive responsible for enforcing those standards. Mrs. Rodriguez provides running commentary for her mushrooming audience. "Y'all, they just discriminated against the woman who literally owns their bank now, while her son's face promotes their diversity on the same TV. This is the most epic comeuppance in corporate history." Her viewer count approaches 1,000 as shares multiply across social platforms. Patricia's desk phone erupts with incoming calls from corporate headquarters, regional management, and crisis communications teams. The discrimination she initiated as routine customer intimidation has mushroomed into institutional emergency, requiring executive-level damage control that may no longer be possible. Denise finally breaks her strategic silence with words that carry the quiet authority of someone who has spent decades navigating boardrooms and corporate hierarchies. "That check represented my signing bonus for completing Meridian's acquisition of Premier National Bank." Her explanation transforms their fraud accusations into evidence of bias against legitimate corporate compensation. She continues with clinical precision that dissects their assumptions. "I needed to deposit it before our 4 p.m. board meeting, where we finalized new management structures and operational protocols." Her timing has been perfect throughout this ordeal, allowing complete documentation of systematic discrimination before revealing the power dynamic that makes accountability inevitable. Brad attempts desperate justification for his actions. "How were we supposed to know who you were?" His question reveals the fundamental flaw in discriminatory thinking, that customers must prove worthiness for basic respect rather than receiving professional treatment automatically. Denise's response carries the measured tone of someone delivering corporate training. Professional service should be standard for every customer, regardless of perceived status or assumed credentials. Her words establish the foundation for institutional changes that will flow from this documented discrimination. The promotional video returns to Jordan's testimonial, his teenage face now carrying additional weight as everyone understands the family connection. Premier National believes in treating every person with dignity and respect, his voice explains while his mother stands surrounded by the opposite treatment from staff who should embody those values. The clock shows 3:04 p.m., and the real confrontation is about to begin. 3:04 p.m. The silence following Denise's revelation lasts exactly 7 seconds before Patricia's desk phone erupts with the fury of corporate crisis management. Regional Director Thomas Bradley's number flashes urgently on the caller ID, followed immediately by 3 more lines lighting up simultaneously. Corporate headquarters, legal counsel, and crisis communications all demanding immediate answers. "Patricia, what in God's name is happening at your branch?" Bradley's voice explodes through the speakerphone with barely controlled panic. "I'm getting emergency calls from board members, our parent company, and media relations. Tell me this viral live stream showing discrimination against Dr. Washington is some kind of elaborate misunderstanding." The speakerphone broadcasts his desperation to everyone in the lobby, eliminating any possibility of private damage control. Mrs. Rodriguez adjusts her phone to capture the corporate meltdown unfolding in real time, her audience now exceeding 200 viewers as the story achieves critical viral momentum across multiple social platforms. Denise steps forward with the measured precision of someone about to deliver a corporate presentation. "Mr. Bradley, this is Dr. Washington. I can provide you with exact details of what transpired here today." Her voice carries the calm authority of someone accustomed to addressing executive leadership during crisis situations. Premier National Bank Downtown Branch, 47 locations, $1.2 billion in total assets, serving approximately 12,000 customers. She begins with the analytical precision that made her successful in corporate technology. This specific location processes $47 million in deposits annually while employing 23 full-time staff members who apparently require immediate retraining in professional customer service. Bradley's voice cracks slightly as he processes the implications. "Dr. Washington, I am profoundly sorry for whatever occurred. We had no idea you were conducting business at our branch today." His apology reveals the corporate mindset that prioritizes important customers over universal professional standards. "That's precisely the problem," Denise responds with surgical precision. "Professional service shouldn't depend on customer identification or perceived importance. Every person who enters this institution deserves dignity and respect, regardless of their appearance, background, or assumed financial status." She continues with data that transforms personal humiliation into corporate liability analysis. Today's incident has been witnessed by over 200 live stream viewers and documented extensively through multiple recording devices. Conservative estimates place Premier National's discrimination lawsuit exposure at approximately $50 million in compensatory and punitive damages. Patricia begins hyperventilating as the financial scope of her catastrophic error becomes quantifiable. Her discriminatory actions haven't just created human resources problems. They've generated massive legal liability that could impact the entire acquisition process. Brad interrupts with desperate justification attempts. "The check looked suspicious. Settlement payments from unknown companies trigger our fraud prevention protocols." His voice rises with each word as he grasps for institutional cover that no longer exists. Denise addresses him directly with the patience of someone explaining basic concepts to struggling students. "Meridian Tech Solutions completed its due diligence on Premier National 6 months ago. Your fraud prevention training should have included recognizing legitimate corporate entities, especially those involved in your own acquisition process." She produces her phone and displays corporate documentation with the efficiency of someone who anticipated this exact conversation. "Current Meridian stock price, $847 per share. Premier National's valuation, entirely dependent on successful integration with our technology infrastructure. Today's documented discrimination violates Section 15.3 of our acquisition contract." The contract reference sends visible tremors through Patricia's composure. Acquisition agreements contain specific clauses about operational standards and discriminatory practices that can trigger review processes or, in extreme cases, deal modifications that affect thousands of jobs. Section 15.3 establishes zero tolerance for discriminatory practices during integration periods, Denise explains with academic precision. Violations trigger immediate management review and potential restructuring of acquisition terms, including personnel decisions and branch operational status. Bradley's voice becomes increasingly desperate as he grasps the magnitude of institutional vulnerability. "Dr. Washington, what can we do to address this situation appropriately?" Premier National is committed to making this right through any necessary corrective action. Denise checks her Patek Philippe watch with deliberate theatricality, allowing tension to build before delivering her ultimatum. Mr. Bradley, you have two distinct options for resolution. Option A involves comprehensive institutional reform, including immediate policy implementation, mandatory bias training, and systematic monitoring protocols. She pauses for effect, while her audience, both physical and digital, absorbs the gravity of corporate accountability in action. Option B involves Meridian Tech Solutions recommending acquisition of a different financial institution that better aligns with our commitment to inclusive customer service and professional operational standards. The threat lands with devastating precision. Walking away from Premier National would cost Meridian approximately $47 million in acquisition fees and legal expenses, significant but manageable for a technology giant. However, it would cost Premier National everything: 2,400 jobs, 47 branch closures, shareholder value destruction, and institutional collapse. All because your employee, she gestures toward Brad with clinical detachment, couldn't treat a black woman with basic professional respect during a routine banking transaction. The mathematical elegance of corporate leverage becomes crystal clear. Denise possesses institutional power to transform personal discrimination into systematic change through economic pressure rather than emotional confrontation. Her strategic patience has created perfect conditions for accountability. Patricia attempts damage control through immediate scapegoating. Brad is suspended effective immediately pending full investigation, she announces with bureaucratic efficiency. His actions don't represent Premier National's values or training standards. Her speed in sacrificing her employee reveals institutional priorities focused on self-preservation rather than genuine reform. Personnel decisions are insufficient, Denise responds with the authority of someone who has restructured multiple corporations. Systematic discrimination requires systematic solutions. Individual punishment addresses symptoms while ignoring institutional causes that enabled today's behavior. She outlines her requirements with the precision of someone delivering corporate consulting recommendations. Full diversity audit conducted by external consultants. Mandatory monthly bias training with measurable accountability metrics. Real-time customer service monitoring through digital feedback systems integrated with employee performance evaluations. The specificity of her demands reveals extensive experience with institutional change management. These aren't emotional requests for justice. They're evidence-based interventions designed to prevent discriminatory behavior through structural modifications and technological monitoring. Bradley agrees to everything with the enthusiasm of someone whose career depends on immediate compliance. Absolutely, Dr. Washington. Whatever resources you need for comprehensive reform, we'll implement every recommendation with full corporate support and unlimited budget allocation. But Denise isn't finished establishing accountability. Additionally, Premier National will donate $500,000 to local civil rights organizations as demonstration of commitment to community repair. This contribution acknowledges that discrimination extends beyond individual incidents to affect entire communities through institutional bias. The financial penalty transforms personal discrimination into community investment, creating positive outcomes from discriminatory behavior while establishing precedent for future accountability measures. Mrs. Rodriguez provides real-time commentary for her growing audience. Y'all, she's not just getting revenge. She's restructuring the entire bank to prevent this from happening to anyone else. This is how you turn discrimination into institutional change. Her live stream has become educational content about corporate accountability in action. Ashley explains the situation to her daughters in age-appropriate terms. The nice lady is teaching the bank people how to treat everyone fairly, she whispers while pointing at Denise. Sometimes adults need to learn better manners, and she's helping them become nicer to all customers. The promotional video begins another cycle, Jordan's face returning to the screen with renewed impact. His teenage confidence mirrors his mother's composure, creating visual irony that transforms corporate marketing into evidence of institutional hypocrisy requiring immediate correction. Jim, the security guard, receives direct instructions through his earpiece to provide full cooperation and assistance to Dr. Washington. His supervisor's tone carries the urgency of someone trying to prevent additional discrimination documentation. The tactical positioning that began as intimidation now becomes protective escort service. Brad continues clutching the torn check pieces like talismans against professional destruction. But his amateur fraud investigation has preserved perfect evidence of discriminatory behavior. The paper fragments represent documentation of bias that will be referenced in sensitivity training sessions for years to come. The clock shows 3:07 p.m. as corporate crisis management accelerates. Legal teams receive emergency briefings while public relations specialists craft damage control strategies for discrimination that has already achieved viral status across multiple social media platforms. Denise observes the institutional panic with clinical detachment, her expression suggesting someone conducting a case study rather than experiencing personal trauma. Her transformation from humiliated customer to corporate executive wielding institutional power is complete, but the systematic changes she's implementing will outlast this specific incident. The board meeting begins in 53 minutes, she announces with finality. I expect preliminary reform implementation plans on my desk before we convene to discuss Premier National's future operational standards. The real work of institutional change is about to begin. 3:08 p.m. The corporate reckoning begins with the precision of a surgeon's blade. Security guard Jim, the same man who blocked Denise's exit 15 minutes earlier, now stands behind Brad Mitchell with handcuffs ready. Company policy requires immediate escort for terminated employees, Jim announces, his voice carrying none of the earlier intimidation. The irony tastes bitter in his mouth as he realizes he's arresting the colleague who dragged him into this disaster. Brad's hands shake as he stares at the torn check pieces scattered across the marble floor. His final paycheck calculation appears on Patricia's computer screen. $2,147, the exact number matching Mrs. Rodriguez's live stream viewer count, a mathematical poetry that will haunt him forever. 28 years old, $2,800, 28 seconds of footage that destroyed my career, he mutters, while security cameras document his perp walk past the same customers he humiliated. Patricia Bennett's termination arrives via corporate phone call that echoes through the lobby's speakers. Effective immediately, pending investigation into 18 months of documented complaints, Regional Director Bradley's voice announces with bureaucratic finality. Her face crumbles as 18 years of employment disintegrate in 18 words, each syllable hammering home the cost of institutional prejudice. But the most devastating consequence isn't professional, it's personal. Patricia's teenage daughter calls crying from school after classmates share the viral video. "Mom, everyone's saying you're racist," the girl sobs through the phone. "My friends won't talk to me. The teachers are looking at me funny. Why did you do that to that nice lady?" The generational damage of discrimination spreads like wildfire through social networks that don't forgive or forget. Dr. Washington observes the institutional collapse with clinical fascination rather than emotional satisfaction. Her expression suggests someone conducting a corporate case study rather than experiencing personal vindication. Systematic problems require systematic solutions, she explains to the trembling staff. Individual punishment addresses symptoms while ignoring institutional causes. The reforms begin immediately with surgical precision. External diversity consultants arrive within 30 minutes, their expertise funded by Premier National's emergency budget allocation. Complete operational audit, Dr. Washington instructs with executive authority. Every policy, every procedure, every training manual gets reviewed and restructured around dignity-based customer service. Mrs. Rodriguez concludes her live stream with 2,400 viewers as the story achieves regional news status. "Y'all just witnessed the most epic comeuppance in banking history," she tells her audience while filming the ongoing transformation. This woman didn't just get revenge. She restructured an entire institution to protect future customers from this same discrimination. The Respect and Dignity Protocol becomes premier national policy within hours, establishing zero tolerance for discriminatory behavior with consequences tied directly to employment status. Real-time customer service monitoring launches through digital feedback systems that detect bias patterns before they escalate into viral incidents. Technology-driven accountability, Dr. Washington explains. Prevention rather than documentation. Mr. Thompson approaches Denise with genuine humility, his earlier prejudiced comments weighing heavily on his conscience. "Ma'am, I owe you an apology," the elderly man says quietly. "My words were wrong, and I'm ashamed of my behavior." His acknowledgement represents something deeper than individual accountability. It's recognition that discrimination requires community-wide responsibility. Ashley uses the resolution as a teachable moment for her daughters. "The nice lady helped everyone remember that all people deserve kindness," she explains, while the twins nod with innocent understanding. Sometimes grown-ups forget their manners, but she reminded them how to treat everyone with respect. Local news producer Jessica Kim arrives for exclusive coverage as the story transitions from social media viral content to mainstream journalism. Dr. Washington has demonstrated that strategic intelligence defeats emotional reaction, she reports. Systematic change through institutional leverage rather than individual confrontation. The promotional video playing on the wall television now carries transformed meaning. Jordan Washington's testimonial about Premier National's respectful service has evolved from corporate marketing fiction into accountability measuring stick. His teenage confidence provides ongoing reminder that discrimination damages families while professional service builds community trust. The financial accountability proves equally comprehensive. Premier National's $500,000 donation to local civil rights organizations establishes precedent for community repair following institutional discrimination. Bias affects entire communities through normalized prejudice, Dr. Washington explains. Community investment acknowledges systematic damage while funding prevention programs. Harvard Business School requests case study development based on the incident, recognizing Dr. Washington's approach as innovative model for corporate accountability. The Washington method enters business vocabulary as shorthand for transforming discrimination into institutional reform through strategic documentation and systematic intervention. The torn check pieces become centerpiece of Premier National's new sensitivity training program. Preserved under glass like museum artifacts, they serve as visual reminder that individual bias creates institutional liability, while systematic respect builds corporate reputation and community trust. 3:47 p.m. Dr. Washington checks her Patek Philippe watch before departing for the board meeting that will formalize Premier National's transformation. Her strategic patience has achieved something remarkable, converting personal humiliation into institutional protection for countless future customers. The revolution began with torn paper and ends with structural change that will outlast everyone in this room. Justice served through intelligence rather than emotion. Power wielded through precision rather than anger. Change implemented through systematic reform rather than individual revenge. This is how discrimination dies. Not through shouting or litigation, but through strategic transformation that makes bias economically unsustainable. 6 months later, Premier National Bank stands transformed beyond recognition. The marble lobby where discrimination once flourished now features digital diversity displays showcasing real customer stories and live accountability metrics. Brad Mitchell works part-time at a small credit union, his viral infamy making corporate banking positions impossible. Patricia Bennett relocated to another state, her teenage daughter's college essays about learning from family shame eventually earning her admission to Stanford's social justice program. Denise Washington's strategic patience created a revolution disguised as corporate policy. The Washington Protocol spreads across the banking industry like wildfire. Systematic bias detection, real-time customer feedback, and economic consequences for discrimination. Her methodical approach proves that the most devastating response to prejudice isn't emotional reaction, but strategic intelligence applied with surgical precision. Jordan Washington evolves from reluctant advertising spokesperson into powerful youth advocate. "My mom taught me that every system has rules," he tells packed auditoriums, "and those rules can work for everyone when we understand how to use them." His confidence mirrors his mother's quiet authority, creating generational change through strategic thinking rather than reactive anger. Mrs. Rodriguez's live-stream documentation becomes civil rights template nationwide. Her real-time coverage demonstrates how smartphones transform private discrimination into public accountability, creating digital witnesses that demand institutional response. "Your phone might be someone's lifeline to justice," she advises millions of followers who now document bias incidents with professional precision. The personal transformations prove most remarkable. Mr. Thompson, whose casual racism contributed to that toxic afternoon, now volunteers with local civil rights organizations. "Age doesn't excuse ignorance," he tells other seniors. "We're never too old to examine our assumptions and choose better behavior." The broader impact resonates through thousands of everyday interactions where respect replaces prejudice, because employees remember the afternoon when discrimination met strategic intelligence and lost decisively. Every professional greeting, every dignified transaction, every equitable customer service moment represents victory over institutional bias that once seemed inevitable. This story reveals timeless truths about power, patience, and moral mathematics. Strategic thinking defeats emotional reaction. Systematic solutions address systematic problems. Individual dignity requires institutional protection. Sometimes the most effective response to discrimination isn't raising your voice, it's raising the standard for everyone who follows. Have you witnessed discrimination that went unchallenged? Share your story in the comments, because these real-life stories create change, and your voice matters. Document injustice when you see it. Your phone might transform touching stories into powerful black stories that protect others. Every system has rules that can work for everyone when we understand how to use them strategically. The most powerful response to discrimination isn't anger, it's intelligence applied with precision to create lasting change. Hit subscribe to Black Soul Stories for more life stories of strategic resistance and quiet revolution. Ring the notification bell because these stories of dignity and determination need to reach everyone who's ever been underestimated. Share this video with someone who needs to understand that patience, preparation, and strategic thinking can transform individual discrimination into community protection. Your share might inspire someone else to choose intelligence over emotion, strategy over reaction. The revolution continues with every documented incident, every strategic response, every transformation of bias into systematic change. Join Black Soul Stories in making discrimination economically unsustainable and dignity mathematically inevitable.